This is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
I think you're right, Giff. We're not synced up very well. There was a delay there.
Pete's a little delayed.
Okay.
You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a bit slow.
But he's a good shit, so we don't bust his chops.
Are we going to start recording?
Right. We got two Fairly Brother movies.
I think we're throwing off here because it's the last episode of the calendar year. We're going to have one more coming out to close out our fiscal year in January, but this is kind of the end here for a while, so we're sad and we're thrown off, and you know what happens.
We're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready to celebrate the holidays. That's what we're about to do.
That's right. Hopefully you enjoyed our Die Hard episode and some of the old ones that you may have missed. And we tried to, really spread some cheer this month with Pop Culture Yearbook. So
we did. Well, and you're talking about you don't have a lot of energy tonight, but you know what we have here? We got a bit of a spark plug of a movie
to talk about. Butt plug? What are we talking about?
Tonight we are wrapping up 1998 with the third Fairly Brothers movie, There's Something About Mary.
Oh, it's so great.
It is so great. So this movie premiered July 15th, 98, had a budget of $23 million and brought in just shy of $370 million worldwide.
That's pretty good. Fourth biggest movie of the year.
Damn.
What's that?
Fourth biggest movie of the year.
Yep, fourth biggest. That's correct.
Which, and I know it was huge, and it surprised me, though, because I feel like this movie is almost somewhat forgotten compared to some of the other, 90s comedies.
Sure.
I mean, and probably not. Maybe that's just in my head. But for as big as it was, it feels like this one didn't stay in the consciousness as long as, like Dumb and Dumber, for example.
Time.
Yeah.
So this movie
is so great, and it should be remembered, and hopefully people have watched it recently, or will go watch it right after they listen to us.
Well, and the second Fairly Brothers movie was Kingpin, which holds a very, great place in my heart. But that one was not a commercial success. So these gentlemen thought, all right, third movie coming out. This may be our last after our, poor showing on the second one. So we're just going to do whatever we want in this third movie, and they knocked it out of the park. This is just such a wonderful, wonderful film.
You can see they hit a home run with their baseball.
There's a couple of...
Yes.
Have you seen their baseball?
There's a couple of holdover actors from from Kingpin. There was one from Kingpin, one that was in Dumb and Dumber as well.
They have their universe, kind of like Kevin Smith.
Yes, correct. So you got Meg.
Absolutely.
Was from Dumb and Dumber. She was the dog lady in the beginning, and then she was, of course, the landlord in Kingpin. You've got one of the detectives in this one was the bartender in Dumb and Dumber, and I think he was the main bad guy. Yeah, one of the main bad guys.
He was on Days of Our Lives for a while too.
Oh, was he?
Oh, was he really? I don't remember that.
He was. Do you remember J.L. King, played by Matt Battaglia? He was like his associate. He played his associate. This is the guy from Kingpin that we're talking
I bet
about.
I saw him, and I bet if I saw a scene, I'd remember watching it, because I'm sure I did, but I do not remember that without any.
All right, so we're going to go into our memories of the first time we saw this movie. I don't recall the exact first time, but I know I would have went to this in the movie theater. This is right during the time when, movies were huge in my life, and seeing the great new movie coming out. So I'm guessing I went to it probably either in the cities or no, I would have been in the cities that summer. So probably went to it in a theater. I'm not sure if I went with you guys, if you guys remember it. But
well, I remember, I think I'm almost 100% sure I probably saw it twice in the movie theater. The time I remember is I went with my brother. He was living in an apartment in Eden Prairie, and we went to it in the Eden Prairie movie theater. But I can't remember. I'm guessing that might have been the second time I saw it, actually. And I'd probably seen it with some of you first, and then it was so great, and he hadn't seen it, and so I went again. But I do know I saw it in the theater with him. I remember that. We were laughing, and the theater was like packed too. Like I can still see, kind of picture almost where I sat. in like, a real packed theater, which you don't get often anymore. So
Right.
place was going nuts.
I believe I must have seen it with you, Brad. I can't think of who else, or our group, because I'm pretty sure I didn't go with my wife, because I don't think that she had ever seen it all the way through. But I don't remember the circumstances. I remember loving it the first time I saw it, but I can't really speak to any specifics on when that was. It had to have been in the theater, though. Quite certain.
Yeah. And what I do remember is it was just an instant classic. It was like
Right.
You walked out of that theater and everybody was just so happy, and it was really cool because like I said, I remember it was one of those movies where you actually felt like you were in on something with the crowd. Like, I don't think we got up and clapped at the end, but it was that kind of thing where you could almost imagine everybody getting up and clapping because everybody just thought it was so great.
Right. Yeah, It is awesome, and that's why we bring it up here, 25 years later to talk it over again.
And you mentioned the directors, of course, the Farrelly brothers, and I just wanted to point out that, who knows, maybe this could have bombed and they wouldn't have gone very far. But, they went on to make a bunch of great movies. But I want to put a plug in. So first of all, Peter Farrelly, of course, directed, I forgot when I was looking at this, he directed Green Book, which won the Oscar for Best Picture, which, kind of surprising. But Bobby Farrelly, I want to put a plug in to you and anybody that's listening. Gifford, have you seen the movie Champions?
Yes.
Or heard of it? You saw
Yes.
it?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap, was that awesome?
Yes.
So that was a movie about a year ago with Woody Harrelson, directed by Bobby Farrelly. And it kind of has a connection to this because it's about people who are, special. But they're all played by people who actually are, and it's not actors, and they are great. And the message in the movie,
they're actors, but
yeah, well, right, but they're not playing,
right.
Mentally, they're
actual special needs people,
right?
Yes.
There you go, special needs. That's the word I couldn't think of. But that movie was great. You laugh and you cry, and it is awesome. I thought so. I want to put a plug out there for that one. Hey, that might make my end of the year 2023 list if I remember that.
Oh,
when we end our fiscal year in January, I should remember the Champions.
I love how you're saying fiscal as in like financial, and
wait, I know it's not the
just
calendar year. So what other word is there for it?
I know. Production year might be a little better choice for our money situation.
Well, that is the time where we settle up and pay for this.
That's true.
It's always December. I can do that now. I can go look it up and ask you guys for money.
Which, again, as we speak of the money side of things, you could always go on to our links, check out our Buy Me a Beer, and donate to the cause.
An end of the year surprise.
There you go. Yeah.
Could fund our whole year. That would be great.
Right. So we're going to go through the cast here a little bit for those who aren't as familiar with this movie, but our title character, Mary, played by Cameron Diaz. So she was her first movie was The Mask in 1994 when she was 21 years old. Quite a good vehicle for her to come into. She got a lot of exposure there.
Very first movie?
That's her first movie. Yep.
Oh.
So this movie, now she's 25, and we are to believe that she is already an orthopedic surgeon. But anyway, it is supposed to be 13 years after graduation.
But so doing this show, you learn things, because Gifford found out for us the other night that we were looking up the actors and didn't even realize Cameron Diaz hasn't made a movie since when, Giff?
2014.
Yeah, so that's almost 10 years, which is crazy. And, he didn't even realize it. And it's like, what happened? Did she just choose to quit? Is she retired? Yeah. What's the deal there?
She's concentrating on family is what I've read.
You did find that.
Yeah. And she did, I believe it was 3 projects in 2014, one of which was...
one was The Other Woman, which I've brought up on this show before.
Yeah, which was a very, good movie. I know Courtney watched it. She loved it. You really enjoyed it as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, then she just went by the wayside and decided to bow out, and more power to her. She's had a wonderful career to this point.
Absolutely.
And speaking of wonderful career, she was nominated for Best Actress at the Golden Globes for this role. The movie was also nominated for Best Comedy for a Golden Globe. One of the people, they wanted Cameron Diaz for this role. But one of the other people that was offered the role was Courtney Cox, and it was turned down by her agent because of Friends filming. So I don't know if she would have been interested in it or not, but she was not, never accepted that role.
I feel like they got the right person.
I feel like they did too.
I do too.
She was absolutely wonderful in this film. One of our other main characters here, played by Ben Stiller, Ted, our hero, I guess, in this film. He is plays the role that he normally plays in a lot of movies that he's in, just the dorky, awkward, uncomfortable guy, and he's born to play a role like this. Just does a great job.
Unlucky.
As well.
Yeah.
Yes, and unlucky.
A lot of stuff works against him, and he plays into that role pretty well.
Correct. We have Matt Dillon, who plays Healy in this movie. Outstanding.
Spoke to your friend Healy.
Right. So this was Dillon's first comedy role.
Ever? Really?
Yeah, and he found it to be difficult because comedy requires timing, and he
makes the movie
unbelievable in this movie.
His mustache alone sets the movie apart right at the beginning. It is It is the perfect look, and the guy just totally nailed everything.
Well, I would say the upper part of his upper lip and below his upper lip, two great things that really make this movie. His mustache, and then towards the second half of the film, his capped teeth were outstanding as well. So high marks.
The outfits he wears too, like with the Hawaiian shirts.
Right. And of course, in 1998, he also did Wild Things, which Brad picked for his list for 98. So really great year for Matt Dillon in 98. We have Chris Elliott plays Dom in this movie. I'm not a huge fan, but I think about it, and he continues to be in projects that I love. He was in this movie, of course. He was Lily's dad in How I Met Your Mother and did a great job. What else do we have him in that I know we've talked about?
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek he was in. I love that. So I don't know. I need to maybe get over my issues with Chris Elliott because he continues to kill it on, great projects. One of our
he always does his roles perfectly as well.
Yeah,
I was just saying he always does his roles perfectly as well. Like he's not supposed to be a likable character. Usually he's just sort of the loser in the background, and I think he does a great job of it.
He does. I did read a thing that his roommate during production was Puffer for the duration of this movie, which again, that's a great little thing that I should like the guy for, being a dog lover. So God bless you, Chris Elliott. We have Lee Evans, a lesser known actor, plays the character of Tucker / Norm. One thing I read about this gentleman was one critic mentioned that his English accent was one of the worst English accents on film.
What?
Lee Evans is British. So he exaggerated his own accent in order to, add the comedy to that role. So
I love that guy in every line.
Well, because he's faking it too.
Right. Yeah, he is great.
The whole point is that he's faking being British. That's the thing.
Let me ask you this, Brad. Do you prefer him playing Tucker or Norm?
Tucker.
Okay, because to me it's a bit of a toss-up. He's great at both. The surfer dude.
I mean, it's funny, but I mean the way he says things as Tucker. I mean, one of my favorite lines in this whole movie that me and Dave from the show say all the time is "twice last year," which means nothing to anybody. But the second we say it, you know exactly what you're talking about, and it's so funny.
Yeah, he does a great job. I like his line as Norm of "You should be kissing my hairy beanbag," but that's just me. We also have a small role here by Jeffrey Tambor. He's Sully. That's Healy's buddy and connection down in Miami.
Richard Jenkins too. one I forgot about.
Richard, which
He's
one?
the therapist. He's Ben Stiller's therapist
yes.
who wasn't even listening to him and then
Yeah.
sneaks back into the room at the end. Richard Jenkins from Step Brothers and many, many things.
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We've got W. Earl Brown plays Warren, and I had mentioned when we talked about great comedic performances, I said that he deserved accolades because if oh good Lord, Rain Man, why can't I think of his name?
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman can win an Academy Award for Rain Man. Why can't W. Earl Brown win for playing Warren? Because a lot of the lines that you think of when you think of this great movie usually come out of his mouth.
Well, my favorite line overall probably is Frank said beans.
Right, exactly.
And how you just hear it coming out of the background at random times too.
Yes.
It's just that's the best part about it.
Or have you seen my
window? And it is kind of a touching moment at the very end. At the very end, when
him and
he's able to pull his headphone off and talk to him. He's got this weird thing about his ears.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he likes you or he trusts you, then you can do what you need to around his ears or whatever. And so that's when Ben Stiller pulled his headset off and talked to him, which he would have freaked out earlier.
Okay, goodbye, Ted.
About 10 times.
So we have one of the great characters in this is Keith David plays Mary's stepdad, and he absolutely knocks it out of the park, just pulling Ted's leg when he shows up for prom. I'm just fucking with him. He has so many great lines.
Boyfriend Boogie 20 minutes ago.
He just has so many great lines, and he's only in one scene, but he just absolutely
he's only in
it.
Well, and that also contains Pete's
Post.
80s crush, Marky Post.
That's correct. Yes, Marky Post plays Mary's mom.
The late Marky Post.
Ah, okay. The Post, Marky Post. Sarah Silverman in a role here. I forgot she was in this movie, much like Heartbreakers a year ago that we covered.
And it's another pretty straight role with not much to do there. She's just the friend hanging around.
Yep. Yeah, she does a good job, but I was like, oh, that's right, she's in this movie.
Harland Williams.
That's another one that makes another appearance because, of course, he was the cop in Dumb and Dumber.
And he steals the show in his scene.
He does.
That is another one where every line is just... We'll got to come back to that one in a minute here.
Yes, we do. Did you guys... I was just going to add a couple could-have-beens for this movie. They did not want to... the studio didn't want Ben Stiller for this role, so the Farrelly brothers put forward a lesser-known Owen Wilson for this role, and they decided, okay, well, now you can go back to Stiller. Jon Stewart was considered for Ted, along with... oh, no, that was it for Ted I had. Bill Murray was considered for Healy, but they thought he was too old, along with Vince Vaughn and Cuba Gooding Jr.
For
Chris
Healy.
Farley for Healy.
I had Tucker in my head there for some reason.
Chris Farley was considered for Warren, but at that point in his life, he was too sick, and he died. He passed away December of '97 during production. And then the Farrelly brothers are Patriots fans, so they wanted Drew Bledsoe for this role, but he was unable to do it because he sustained an injury in a mosh pit incident. And the other person they wanted was Steve Young, but upon viewing the material, Steve Young turned it down because it was a bit too crass for his liking.
That's too bad. I think Drew Bledsoe had to be better than Brett Favre. I mean, any human on earth could have been better than Brett Favre in this movie.
Right, and that was just a kick to the hairy beanbag when he walks in, because as Minnesota people, to have Brett Favre play any part in a beloved movie like this is just, it takes it down just a bit of a notch.
Yeah, but his horrible performance makes it better, though.
Yeah. What's that, Pete?
Speaking of Minnesota, I had forgotten that she was from Minnesota in the movie. That they at age 16, right at the beginning, she had moved in from Minnesota. So
correct.
Good for her.
And speaking of her history, I want to back up to Chris Elliott quick again too, because are we to believe that he was a amazing all-state football and basketball player, athlete, and a Ivy League brainiac? When you picture that, I don't think you're picturing Chris Elliott.
Well, that's
even as an older age. I don't think you look back and think, oh yeah, that guy was clearly the Joe Mauer of the day.
Well, you forget he was also going to take a year off to go model in Europe.
That's right.
So, that's a bit of a stretch, but that's the beauty of it, is that, of course this guy turns out to be, Chris Elliott instead of being, a handsome man. The one thing Pete said about Mary being from Minnesota, later in the movie we see Ted and Mary out on a date, and they're eating corn dogs, and Mary brings up, why are there not more meats on a stick? Yeah. Obviously, in her first 16 years of her life, she had never gone to the Minnesota State Fair before moving to Rhode Island, because there is nothing but meats on sticks.
Or she's just
maybe that's what made her think about it, though. I mean, it's not more popular anywhere else, and so that's what gave her the inspiration for the idea.
Right? Maybe. I just think she could have brought up the state fair at that point.
Want to point out that, like the other Farrelly Brothers movies, especially to this point, this movie also has a killer soundtrack. The music that they pick for these movies is just top notch. Not only the ones that you haven't really heard that fit, but like, is she really going out with him? And it starts with Mary's Prayer, and the Lemonheads are in it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the best things I think about their movies is the music.
They do have excellent movies. Excellent music in their movies. Speaking of the music in the movies, the first song with the two gentlemen playing up in the tree, the one line I have a problem with is they have somebody named Indigo. Who the hell names their kid Indigo? I just wasn't buying that. But okay, I'm gonna go through a quick synopsis for those who don't know the movie, and then we will dive into some of our favorite parts of this spectacular film. This movie is about young love lasting through the years, as well as obsession with the perfect girl. Ted is an awkward but sweet boy when he meets Mary in high school. She is the picture of the all-American girl, tall, beautiful, and blonde. But she also possesses a good heart and a soft spot for the dorky kind of guy. After Ted tries to defend Mary's mentally slow brother Warren, the two form a friendship to Ted's amazement and delight, and they make plans to attend their senior prom together. This despite Mary supposedly dating the perfect guy from a neighboring town named Woogie. When their prom night ends prematurely in disaster, Ted spends the next 13 years wondering, what if? At the urging of his best friend Dom, Ted hires Healy, a shady insurance claim investigator, to find Mary, who has since moved to Miami. When he finds her, Healy is instantly smitten with Mary. She is as beautiful as ever, a pediatric surgeon, and looks after her brother Warren. Healy returns to Ted, tells him lies about Mary in an attempt to dissuade Ted from looking her up, and quickly returns to Miami to woo Mary. Ted, having found out that Healy lied to him, decides to drive to Miami and find Mary himself. Ted is joined by Dom on his trip after Dom has to bail Ted out of prison after some major misunderstandings with the authorities. Once in Miami, we see the lengths our male characters will go to be with Mary. Healy poses as a globe-trotting philanthropist architect. Norm assumes an entirely different persona of Tucker. And we come to find out Dom and Mary's complicated past. Even an NFL quarterback makes Mary's roster of suitors. In the end, Ted and Mary get to share their first kiss 13 years later than expected.
Roster
quick little overview for you there, folks.
Suitors.
Yes.
And it is great when they're all in the same room and they're all there together at the end.
Yeah, for sure. So I figured we kind of go through, we spoke of our cast here, but I do want to ask you guys, who is your favorite character in this movie?
Oh, that's easy. It's Matt Dillon.
Healy?
It's got to be. I mean, I love them all, but he just... And after, if this is truly the first time he ever did comedy, that makes it even better. I didn't even know that, and he's just everything he does is amazing in this movie.
Pete?
I'd have to say the same. In particular, I thought it was hilarious when he was trying to cover up his story about being an architect at that banquet that they were at. Because what's his name? The British guy that's
Tucker.
What was his name again? Yeah,
Tucker.
yeah. He's like calling him out on it, and that whole scene was where I was laughing the hardest at his role, actually.
Okay.
You ever been to Santiago, Chile? Twice last year. You did the Estadio Olimpico? No, the tower's down the street.
What did he call him in Spanish? Just so
I don't know,
perfect.
something towers. Oh yeah, he did. He used Spanish too. It probably didn't make any sense.
No. It's a bingo for me too. He is so solid in this role. Not only the lines that come out of his mouth, but his overall look. He's so stupid and politically incorrect with everything that he does.
You know, he's similar. The way you describe him and his picture too with the mustache, he's very similar to Otto. When you brought up the word "stupid" in A Fish Called Wanda, and Kevin Kline won an Oscar for that role. I feel like Matt Dillon is just about as good in this role, in this movie, as he was.
Well, and the first time we meet him, Ted is in his office, trying to explain what's going on. And Healy's not only doesn't believe him and starts calling him a stalker, but when he stands up from behind his desk, his pants are unbuttoned and unzipped so that he has full comfort while sitting in his office. He's so bad. And then, of course, when he...
Roller Pig?
When he meets Mary for the first time and he's explaining... his real passion is working with, the mentally disabled. And of course, he uses the R word and, she asks him, isn't that politically incorrect? But he misunderstands and says, well, who's going to tell me who I can and can't work with?
Well, and he's just charming enough to like cover it up and make her like not get upset.
Just totally misses the point.
Well, and one of his lines that Courtney and I use all the time is he's got a forehead like a drive-in movie theater, but he's a good shit.
So we don't bust his chops.
He's just and then the whole exchange, like you said, with Ted when Ted comes back to his office to say, "Hey, I want to look her up," and talking about.
So when he first is looking at Mary through the window, tight little package. Affirmative. And then he sees her with the golf clubs. Looks like we got a jock on our hands.
Right. Or when he's spying on her and Mary's undressing in front of the window and he pulls out the huge binoculars to get a better look, but he comes back on Magda's nude, chest. and he just yells, or he just says, "Oh, first chink in the armor, Ted." It's just
maybe the best exchange he has is when he's going back to Miami and he says he's going to because he got a job at the Rice-A-Roni people. Yeah, they're changing their image. And that's where he says roller pig and butt plug.
Yeah.
But then he goes, she's in a wheelchair. And he goes, it's a bunion. It'll heal.
Right.
And she's so big. And he goes, it's a sumo culture. It's a mail order bride. They work both ways.
They pay by the pound over there. Oh, yeah, she's deuce and a half,
And when he's at the driving range, he's terrible. Hit a house! And he's trying to impress her. I haven't swung the wrenches in a while. It's just so dumb.
Well, don't forget when they're playing beach football, too. When he's just, like, running over everybody and punching them and stuff.
Exceptional my ass. So that scene reminds me of Dave's story about his buddy playing basketball and taking that ugly shit to the hole.
Yeah.
So that he must have been playing with Pat Healy in that league. So
driving range. So she has a really good swing. Mary has a really great swing. I was impressed by it.
I read a thing that said they had a body double for her come in, but her swing was better than the person they brought in. So they got rid of the body double. All right, so that's a bingo. Pat Healy is, everybody's favorite character, and I think deservedly so. So we've been going through some lines here, our favorite lines from the movie. You guys got any that stick out?
This could go on for a while.
Yes.
But if you were to ask me my favorite side character, I would pick Harland Williams, the hitchhiker, and I could start with his lines.
Yes, please do that, please.
So he's telling Ted about his new idea. You heard of the 8-minute abs? Well, we got 7-minute abs. We guarantee just as good a workout as the 8-minute folk. Well, how do you guarantee that?
What if somebody comes out with 6-minute abs?
Yeah, and then that sets him off. And then one of my other favorite lines is, not even a mouse on a wheel. 7's the magic number. 7-Eleven, 7 doors, 7 chipmunks. Step into my office.
Why?
Because you're fucking fired.
That's the line right there.
That's the line. That is the line right there.
And all along, Stiller's just playing along, has no idea. And this guy's about to kill him, he finds out later. And
yes. Oh, God.
But that leads to then one other afterwards. Did you find it a little alarming when they asked how many times he's done this and they think that he killed people? Yeah. And he's like, hitchhikers? I don't know, 25, 50? Doesn't that seem like a lot of hitchhikers?
That's a lot of people to pick up, for sure.
Not a big deal for him.
Another fun fact for you, Cameron Diaz was the body in the bag.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is fun.
That's what I read. Side character for me would be Mary's stepdad. Keith David absolutely kills it for me.
Yeah, and both these guys just had the one scene, but they just are so memorable in those two parts.
Well, and I love the part where Ted comes up, knocks on the door. He's got the corsage and he's in his tux, and Keith David answers the phone, a black man, of course, and Ted looks at him,
looks
and
around,
then looks at the house, the number on the house, and then looks back at him. It's just so great. Any other?
Well, here's another line, not from either of them, but one of Tucker's favorite lines, I think, is when she talks about, Mary, of course, is set up. She's not even realistic. She's every guy's dream. She loves sports. All she does is watch and talk about sports. But she says something about how Matt Dillon, how she likes him and how he's so quirky, but how he even can fart in front of her. And Tucker goes, "Oh, so that's what you want, is it? A farter."
A farter. One of the lines that I wrote down here. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
When he's describing that she's not as perfect as she actually is, and he's like, Ben Stiller is disappointed by it. He goes, "What? You think your shit don't stink?"
Then he says, well, yeah, and he doesn't even know how to answer him.
Right. One of the lines I have down is in the bathroom scene at prom, and the stepdad comes in finally to take a look at things, and he calls in the mom, and he goes, "How'd
you get the Franks above the beans?"
No, he goes, he calls her and he goes, "You got to see this. She's a dental hygienist. She'll know what to do."
Yeah.
And then she squirts Bactine on him. Yeah.
Another one, just back to Matt Dillon, he just the essence of him when he's kissing Mary and he's like really getting in her and she goes, "How's my stomach taste?" And just the way he goes and he just like blows it up. "Oh, how's my stomach taste?" she says. I mean, you have to see the movie for that to be funny, but it is so funny. He's just such a moron.
Yeah. One of the lines that I use a lot from this movie comes from Dom's character. And when he's sitting around in the beginning with Ted and Ted's talking about how great of a life Dom has with the wife and kids. And Dom goes, "Each day is better than the next."
Yeah, you got to think about that one.
We got Ted's line of at the end of the movie, right at the end of the movie. What about Brett Favre? That's always a good one.
Well, and then also when she comes out and says she wants to be with him, and he's been just getting, teased the whole movie, and he looks at her and goes, you're fucking with me, right?
Right.
That's funny too. And she's not. He finally gets something to go right.
Getting into a couple Warren lines here. Of course, the Franks and Beans is
and
is
what's
the
great
big one.
about the Franks and Beans is he's saying it. They're in the bathroom, and he can hear it through the door, and you don't even see him. You just hear him saying it. But then also when they come to Miami, and like Warren somehow sees Ted in the distance, and like he's trying to hide, and you hear in the background, Franks and Beans.
Right. That's how he remembers him. That's how Warren remembers Ted from 13 years ago. The other one that I love is when they're standing outside the bathroom waiting for him, and the parents are talking, and one of them, I think the mom mentions, do you think he's masturbating? Well, Warren clamps right onto that and starts talking about masturbating. And then as they're bringing Ted out on the stretcher, you can hear Warren in the background yelling with all these people around, he was masturbating! He was masturbating!
Well, and the dad, too, who was just teasing him at first, but now he's fed up. But he's like, none of this ever happened to Woogie.
Right, yep.
Just to make it Ted feel even worse when there's nothing he can do about it.
Well, and also from that scene, I love the police officer just walks up to the window, and once he gets a look at it,
it's such a sitcom moment. Right. Like all these people just end up in one spot, and
and his line is, "Well, how'd you get the zipper all the way to the top?" So I'm gonna move into on that.
Well, they bring the firemen in too. The policeman isn't. Everybody in town is there.
I did have a question.
Yeah,
I did have a question about the floor plan of the house when he's in the bathroom and he's looking up across.
Apparently, it's
and sees the window with the mom and Mary. How does he see across? That's just weird, and it doesn't seem consistent with how it is on the outside, the exterior view of the house.
Apparently, it's a U shape with a courtyard. It's like a Romeo and Juliet castle house, but you have to not think about that there.
So next we're going to go into our favorite gag. So we're talking about the bathroom scene, so we'll just stick with that. So you have Ted, who has obviously got his penis and balls stuck in his zipper. First off, this is, a great universal thing for all men. Everybody knows what's happening here. But the build up to it, and you keep seeing the reaction of the other characters when he shows them. And the first time I watched this movie, you're just like, well, come on. Like, are we going to see it?
Well, yeah, they build a suspense.
Yes. And then
because you're going to, but it takes a while.
I didn't think they would. I didn't think they would show it.
It's the Farrelly.
Didn't really want to.
Right. You wanted to see it, but you didn't want to see it. So to me, that shot of his ball hanging out his zipper with just some skin in the rest of the zipper is just a masterpiece of visual comedy.
You say men can relate, but doesn't Ted look like a guy that would wear underwear? I mean,
yeah, but he was in such a hurry.
I guess, but
yeah,
I know, and it's not like you can. It's obviously funny, and you're not.
Don't overthink it.
I know. I'm just saying.
My question is how come he didn't do that later in the movie after pleasuring himself, and all of a sudden the knock on the door and he has to hurry out? So evidently he learned his lesson on how to not zip himself up. Any other gags?
Well, the obvious gag would be what you were just talking about, where he has the finishing touches of his masturbation on his ear, and she takes it and puts it in her hair.
Clean the pipes.
Right.
That's the most obvious one. I did have another one here that if you call it a gag or not.
Here again, though, I want to stay on that one for a second because I had a comment. In the scene, though, as he's trying to race out of the bathroom, he spins around and you can see both ears.
Yeah.
And there's nothing going on.
Well, and like that would never happen anyway. It's another one of those things where it's hilarious, but like,
of course,
this loss of physics, it's not going to happen the way that it happened. And then just hang like that.
While he's looking, he looks at the ceiling not once but twice. Yeah. Like, he's looking all over this thing, and He's looking up like that's a pretty good shot if he can get her all the way up to an 8-foot ceiling.
So another thing that makes that scene to me, I think, is that it's like the orchestral music playing while he's doing it, and it's kind of switching back and forth. It totally reminds me of a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It reminds me of when he's giving Elmer Fudd a haircut.
Yes.
I mean, it's and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that on purpose because these guys are so smart and funny. But it has that same feel, just like that one scene was like the classic sitcom moment, and this is like a cartoon, and it's so funny. The other gag I would throw in, I guess, would be the dog when he's fighting the dog.
Yeah.
And but then when the dog is in the full body cast and he leaves it on top of the car and he gets out and it's still there, that's pretty good too.
That is good. So that scene where
after he
Ted
just ducks
fighting,
and the dog jumps right out the window.
Right. So that I got a little fun fact on that one. So when Magda and Mary look out the window, I think, well, it was one of the crew. I don't know if it was one of the directors, but we're mooning them, waiting for them to look out the window. So in that scene where Ted is fighting with Puffer, when Puffer grabs his neck and he comes sliding across the floor, and it looks like Ted hits his head on the chair leg, he did, in fact, accidentally slam his head into that chair leg. So one of the other ones I would put in there is Dom's love blisters, as he called them, and how they get worse and worse throughout, and then he ends up with the white head on the bottom lid. That's my least
favorite thing in the whole movie. It is just, I mean, I don't like Chris Elliott mostly because of that. It's just, it's so gross. I can't stand looking at it.
But that's what I like about it. He's such a deplorable character, and he's just as ugly on the outside as he is on the inside of this. So that's why I bring it up. Brad, you brought up the fight scene. I'll also bring up the Puffer resuscitation scene with the lamp cord trying to shock him back to life and catches him on fire.
Jesus Christ, that's so good.
That dog gets drugged not once but twice in this movie. Once with downers and once with uppers. So that was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about scenes. Any other big scenes we haven't talked about? We got the bathroom scene that we've gone over. Anything else from the bathroom scene?
We've pretty much covered the scenes that I wrote down.
We touched on the scene with the authorities when in the interrogation. That was really good, where the cops think he's a murderer and Ted is just talking about hitchhikers, and just that interplay is just excellent. And and
they're such assholes to him, and it's like you feel for him, and then he's just sitting there blowing it off, and it's like he's just making it worse, and it's like it's one of those cringy things you're watching, like wish they could understand each other.
Right, the misunderstanding there is played very, very well.
I like the scene towards the end where they the guys start to come together when he goes to the hotel room, and you've got, so I love the team up of Healy and Tucker, and when they become like friends almost. But then Ben Stiller jumps in there and punches him, and I love how he just goes, "Hey, surprise!" That's a great delivery.
Yeah.
I love her, man. I love Mary, man.
Well, it just the stark contrast between Norm and Tucker is so great.
Norm. I'm a delivery
boy. Well, let me see. What else do we got for scenes in this one I wanted to hit on?
Well, there's Brett Favre, which we've started to talk about a little bit, but so, that's like the big reveal to have. They're known for having athletes, and they mentioned Brett throughout the movie, and I don't think anybody ever thought, when I saw this, I didn't know he was coming. I don't think anybody did.
No,
right. And it could pay off if the athlete was like interesting, but I'm not kidding, and it's not because I don't like Favre and hate the Packers. He is the most wooden, awful actor I think I've ever seen. When he goes into Kiss Mary, it's like. It's like they're moving a cardboard cutout. Yeah. It's so bad.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum from Cam Neely and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Like, he's good. You don't even think he's an athlete. Dumbass.
Well, and unfortunately, this was Peyton Manning's rookie, or would have been going into his rookie season, so he would have been a senior this year. But obviously, Peyton Manning has showed himself to be, quite the hilarious guy, so he would have been a good one to have.
I think a lot of people would have worked. But at the time, I mean, Favre is the biggest thing. And, I mean, he's just won like 2 MVPs in a row.
They just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, they just lost that year. They won the year before. 97 is when the Broncos beat him. But so he's been in the last 2, and he's won like 3 MVPs in a row. So he fits. Like, that's the biggest guy you could get. It's just too bad that he couldn't like do something with it. Right.
Yeah, he is not meant to. He's a good ad-libber on the football field. Not so much on the behind.
Yeah, and for a guy that's like such a good old boy, and like you'd think he could do it, but wow, he was. I can't overstate how bad he was.
Well, and we kind of mentioned as far as gags go, Brad, brought up the jizz scene. How great is it that her hair sticks straight up?
Well, that's perfect. You have to have that.
Everybody knows why it's sticking straight up like that. It's so perfect. They do such a great job of, not necessarily even gross out, because there's plenty of other crap you've seen in comedies in years since that are way more gross out, but dark comedy, black comedy type stuff that they do such a great job with.
But this movie, when it came out, those between the balls and the hair, those were 2 like
shocking
big deals. Like those were shocking, and those were like something you hadn't seen before and set this movie apart.
Right. For sure.
Those were risky.
Yes.
I love, too, how this movie ends with a good old-fashioned credits reel. Not necessarily bloopers, but just dancing to the song, and you get every character in there. It's so fun. I couldn't turn my eyes away. I could not stop watching it until it was done.
Lip syncing to Build Me Up Buttercup.
Yeah. It reminds you like of Smokey and the Bandit, or, one of the Cannonball Run, one of those great comedies that you didn't get to see that very often anymore.
It's such a fun song, and it's a fun way to end such a great movie. You just think, like, I see that and I think this movie must have been a blast to make for the people, the crew, and the cast, and it's just a fun way to wrap it all up. So, anything else you guys wanted to add about this 1998 gem?
Pete, here's your chance. Your timing's a little off, so
I think we heard it.
Anything we haven't said?
I think we covered it. No, I'm good.
All right.
All right.
Now we can move on.
So for tonight, our top 5 for this evening is going to be Ben Stiller credits. So anything that he's acted in, directed, produced, TV, movies, anything you want to get into, we are going to do that. So I am the number 1 pick. We are going to have Brad at number 2, and Pete is going to follow up with 3.
I already wrote your pick down. You're not going to surprise us, are you?
Well, I think I am going to, and the reason being is that our favorite character in this movie we talked about tonight is Healy. So for me, Ted's not my favorite character in this movie. Wow. I'm going to go with a movie that he played a complete different character. Instead of being the awkward, meek one, he was the awkward, bravos one. Is that a word?
Dodgeball.
I'm going with Dodgeball.
That's funny because that's what I was going to pick after you picked. That is my second pick.
I'm sorry. We should date.
But I will gladly take There's Something About Mary then. That's okay. Great. Maybe I'll beat you for once.
There you go. Well, and I took Something About Mary for my number 1 from 98, so I didn't want to have it on 2 of my lists.
Well, those were my top 2.
Yep, those are my top 2 as well.
All right. Well, I'm going to make a pick that I think might be popular with the audience. I'm going to go with Meet the Parents.
All right.
Yep, I got that one high up.
I do too.
Not the sequels necessarily, but the first one was pretty great.
Okay, I am going to take the first Zoolander movie.
That was my next one.
By the way, you can take sequels as 2 separate movies.
Yep,
so
that's why I specified.
Right. I just want to clarify that there's always controversy.
Right.
All right, I'm going to go kind of off the board here, but this is something that I just think is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Do you know what I'm going to say, Gifford?
Yes, I do.
What?
It's Mission Improbable.
Kicking Impossible. Whenever he plays Tom Cruise, you totally got it again.
7-minute, awesome
MTV short for the Video Awards.
He plays Tom Cruise, CROOZE.
You should call it Kicking Impossible.
Right.
And it's
with Tom Cruise actually in it.
Yeah, he's got him with him, and they laugh together. That is one of the funniest, most memorable little things I've ever seen.
I would have taken that. I would have taken that third if you or Pete didn't take it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't wait then.
That is such a good clip. It's only 7 minutes long, but holy cow, is it awesome.
This mission just got a whole lot more impossible.
It was a promo for, did you say that, the second Mission Impossible movie?
I think it was like right before it came out, right?
Yeah, it was a promo for the
But it was on the MTV Movie Awards.
Yes. Yep. And just the way he laughs like Tom Cruise. And they're sitting there side by side, and then they start laughing at each other. And
that's where it's almost like we finish each other's sentences.
Right. Well, and that just also, the other great thing about that is, Tom Cruise playing right into that and just going full bore into it. It was awesome too.
Right.
So.
That's what makes it even better. But.
Right.
This mission just got a whole lot more impossible. All right. I am going to go with Reality Bites.
Reality Bites on my list here.
Went on a date to that movie in high school.
Here we go.
With who?
The person that I kind of saw in high school.
There you go.
Okay.
Still a secret to this day.
Our senior year.
There you go.
I think you know.
I think I know, but yeah.
All right, I'm going to take my next one. I'm going to take more so because of the movie that I love more, and I've seen it much more. I'm going to go with Billy Madison. I'm sorry, not Billy Madison. Oh my God,
Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Billy Madison.
Good Lord, am I stupid?
No, that's a great role. Happy Gilmore.
He's the militant, orderly at the old folks' home. Yes, he is awesome in that role, and I love the movie more than the other one I was going to pick. So,
all right. I'll probably lose the poll with this one, but I have this highly rated. And he's the star of this movie. I really like the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh.
I think he was great in it, and it's a really kind of nice, sweet movie. It's another movie that has great music in it. So,
okay,
I'm
I
going
did
to
not
throw
have
that in
one
there.
on my list, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
Who's the? I'm totally blanking. Who's the female in that movie?
Let me look it up. Pete, why don't you grab your next one, and I will. Right here. Oh, actually, I got it. It is Kristen Wiig.
Oh yeah, it is Kristen Wiig. Wow. Catherine Hahn is.
Catherine Hahn is also in it.
Adam
yes,
Scott is in it.
Odessa Mitty.
It's such a good movie. I think a little sleeper pick.
All right,
there you go.
I'm gonna go with Starsky and Hutch. I thought that was a fun movie.
I've never seen that.
Really? That's good.
I think I've seen bits of it. Well, what's kind of interesting is, again, Owen Wilson was considered for Ted, but they wouldn't take him. So instead they went with their first pick of Stiller. Okay. My fourth pick, correct, is going to be Tropic Thunder. A movie in which Robert Downey Jr., I believe, won an Oscar.
Did he win or just nominated?
I will look it up here. Hold on one second.
I don't think he won. All right. Well, I will go with one of his biggest
you're right,
movies,
nominated.
Which is Night at the Museum.
There you go.
And again, the first one is pretty awesome, I think. And maybe I don't care a lot about the sequels so much, but
All right. I'm going to go with, I remember this being a really good show back probably junior and senior year. This is where we all first heard, at least I first heard about him, the Ben Stiller Show.
All right.
Little
Are you sure he was
show,
on that?
Kind of like Saturday.
One of those shows that was never really given a proper chance and canceled way too soon.
Yeah.
Do you know too? He was
good.
He was on SNL, but only for 4 episodes.
Really?
Yep.
As a cast member, he's been on since many.
Yeah, right. He was in the cast in like
times,
'89.
Okay.
And I think he did a Tom Cruise impression on there, which was one of the first things that he kind of got known for. And I think I'm right about that anyway. But he was on for 4 episodes. That part I'm pretty 100% sure.
All right, my final pick, a movie I've seen a ton because I have young children, and that is Madagascar: Escape to Africa. He is Alex the Lion in those movies, and that was the big one with penguins.
Is that not the first one?
No, well, he's the first one as well, but I watched the second one more, and the penguins had a much bigger role, I felt, in the second one, so I'm going with Escape to Africa.
All right. I'm going to go with... I got 2 TV shows here I could go with. But then there's a bunch of good movies still yet to go. It's a tough pick. You know, I'd like to win a poll for once. I probably already blew it. I'm going to take Along Came Polly, I guess.
There you go. That's a good one. Again, where he plays the awkward, guy and does it so well.
The thing that steals the show there is Philip Seymour Hoffman and the basketball scene, and that's the memorable thing there.
So gross. All right, Pete, what's our final pick?
Uh-oh. Is he frozen at the very end of the show? Let's go through your... Oh, what?
Oh, do we have him?
And I'm going to go with his opinions.
We completely just did.
You're going to have to say it again.
He's going with Friends.
Is that what he said? I thought he said Penguins.
Oh.
I think you're right. I think he said Friends. We'll come back to him if we get him back. Let's go through our... What else do you got, Gif?
So as we're guessing, he went with his role as Tommy the Yeller.
The Yeller.
On Friends. I've got one of your favorite movies from one of your favorite directors. I got The Royal Tenenbaums. The Watch, I thought was a halfway decent film. And then one thing that I absolutely loved that came out, I believe, this past year, and he's the director, he's the producer for it, but it's a little new for me to say it's one of my all-time favorite things he's ever been in, and that is Severance. If you haven't watched the first season, of Severance, please do. It's a super slow burn.
6 episodes.
Yeah. It's unreal. It's so much fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing the second season.
Definitely unique. I didn't love it. It was hard to get through for me because I felt like it's a slow burn, and like it just never quite got there for me, and so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'll watch when a new season comes. I'm sure I'll watch it again, and hopefully I'll like it even more.
Those last few episodes, man, I was screaming. I was sitting on the edge of my seat, like I was in it, man. I really enjoyed it.
So the other TV show that I just about picked, actually above Friends, I had Arrested Development, where he played Tony Wonder, the magician, rival to Job. Which,
Job, yep.
Anytime you got Job involved and it's a rival to him, that's going to be great. I have Flirting with Disaster, a really funny comedy in the 90s that had like Mary Tyler Moore and a whole cast. It was like this. That's another one that's like this sleeper funny movie that was really kind of well known and big at the time and has disappeared. Heavyweights from the 90s, which I hadn't watched until not too long ago. That's pretty good.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Tower Heist, which I don't really remember at all, but it's him and Eddie Murphy, and I thought it was gonna be great. And I don't think it was great, but I watched it and it was probably okay.
Mhm.
I could have picked Anchorman. His little scene. He's one of the people in Anchorman. He has a memorable spot there.
Yep.
The Heartbreak Kid was not a great movie, but it's one of his starring vehicles, and it's okay. There was a show a few years ago called Burning Love that was like a spoof on The Bachelor, and I don't really remember him being in it, but apparently he was, and that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's Ken Marino plays The Bachelor, and there's these six women, and it's all comedians. Like June Diane Raphael is one of the ones. She's married to what's his face, not Nick Kroll, but with the teeth, Paul Scheer. So it's like that whole crew. There's all these people in it, and it's so funny. If you can find that, you should really watch it.
What is it called? Burning Love?
Burning Love.
Okay.
And then they did another season where June Diane Raphael, was the Bachelorette version, and it wasn't quite as funny the second time around, but it's still good.
Okay.
He had a run in the 90s. I remember watching every one of these movies, and it's where he kind of started to try to be more dramatic. I think these were all in 97, maybe? Zero Effect, Your Friends and Neighbors, If Lucy Fell, and Permanent Midnight, which I think was a total, he was on drugs, a really serious type of movie.
Yep.
I was looking at his list here, and I saw every one of those movies back then, and they were all decent. I don't remember many of them. I didn't watch them again, probably, but he was in so many movies, especially in the 90s there. It's I saw so many different ones.
Yeah, to think that his show got canceled, and then he just was in everything.
Yeah.
As far as movies. Yeah.
Do we
guys, I'm back.
Yeah. Just in time to do your two jobs at the end here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you mean closing the yearbook?
That's one of them.
Yep. We do need to close the yearbook.
By the way, it on the whole year.
My last pick was Friends, by the way.
We did. We got it through the chat.
His guest role on Friends.
Yes.
Okay, good. And a band would be awesome to get to play Build Me Up Buttercup.
The robots?
What band would be great to play Build Me Up Buttercup? Let me see here. That would be Preacher Row.
We're gonna take a little hiatus, guys.
You got it.
Put out some classic shows, and we're gonna make one new one. But in our time off, we're gonna try to upgrade Pete's equipment so that we can not have this issue again next year when we come back.
Jenny's been asking us to upgrade Pete's equipment for many, many, many years.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Oh my God.
No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my plan. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do. And hide if you want to.